Welcome to the Vibin Higher Podcast. In this episode, we talk to chemtrail activist Michael Murphy. But first, a quick announcement.
Hey everyone, just wanted to let you know that the podcast, available at vibinhigher.com, is also available through iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, and various other podcast aggregates. This way you can listen at home or on the go. Hope you enjoy the show.
All right, everybody. Well, we were recently lucky enough to sit down with a man that I certainly look up to, a man by the name of Michael Murphy. Now, Michael is a filmmaker, a political activist, and president of the Coalition Against Geoengineering. His work focuses on issues that go beyond the interest of the corporate mainstream media and includes co-producing the groundbreaking documentaries What in the World Are They Spraying and Why in the World Are They Spraying, as well as several other short films that address chemtrails, geoengineering, and other controversial political issues. We had to conduct this interview over phone, so it's not going to be the same audio quality that we're used to, but it definitely gets the point across, and Michael certainly had some really good things to say. So with that, I think we'll just jump into it.
Well, yeah, first of all, thank you for joining us. And I did want to start off with a little bit of background on yourself. I know that you didn't really become aware of the topic of chemtrails or geoengineering until just a few short years before you did the first film, What in the World Are They Spraying, right?
Well, that's correct, and thanks for addressing this issue on your show. It's very important, and probably the most important environmental human health issue that we've had to face on the planet. I know that sounds very extreme for those who are not aware of the issue, as it did for me. But as I began to research and learn the facts about geoengineering, a very credible science, I got very concerned. So, like most people, you know, I was very unaware of these programs, and it was just a couple of years before we released our first film, What in the World Are They Spraying, and then the award-winning film, actually multi-award-winning film, Why in the World Are They Spraying, that I learned about this, and it was a very much of a wake-up call. And at that time, I lived in Arizona, and this was back in probably mid 2005, 2006. And when I moved initially out to the Phoenix area, this was in the late 80s, and I remember the deep blue skies, deep blue, rarely a cloud, rarely a blemish in our skies above. And occasionally we'd get a winter storm. That's when the storm clouds would move on, but very much unblemished. Somebody had pointed out, that the fact that our skies were changing. I noticed what appeared to be cirrus clouds. Didn't know what was causing it, but somebody told me about chemtrails, this term chemtrails, and they said airplanes are, they're spraying chemicals into the sky to make artificial clouds. And I said, this person's a lunatic. They're crazy. Of course, nobody would do that. But then it was a little bit later that I saw an actual airplane with a very, very long trail behind it, different than what we saw, when I was a child, where you would see a trail behind an airplane that would dissipate very quickly. These were different. They would go from horizon to horizon. And the person said, watch that. That will turn into these high clouds. So I knew something was changing, and this kind of opened up my eyes. So I began studying, and looking into this, doing a lot of research. What we found was incredible, very shocking, very concerning, but there's good news at the end of the story.
Good. Yeah, and that's one of the things that I kind of wanted to get into was, I think the big debate for the, I guess, debunkers, you would say, is that it's all contrails. Everything that you're seeing up there is normal, and it's been going on since there's been airplanes in the sky. Is there really a way that people can look up and tell whether or not it's a contrail or a chemtrail?
Well, a contrail is short for condensation trail. And yeah, contrails have been around since airplanes have been flying. When an airplane flies at a certain elevation, there's heat. That heat attracts condensation. It's very similar to when we breathe in cold weather. You can see your breath. That condensation quickly goes away. On some days, you'll see that trail extend, or you'll see your breath extend a little bit longer due to, different conditions. That is a condensation trail. What we're seeing from horizon to horizon, those things do not dissipate. They do turn into artificial clouds. And that wasn't enough for me. I had to look deeper into this. So I went to a geoengineering conference, and they spoke about geoengineering, their plans and proposals, denied the fact that they were doing it, but exactly stated, what we're seeing in the sky. We're going to spray aluminum, barium, and strontium, other very toxic metals out of airplanes, and essentially block the sun with the sky. It was exactly what we were seeing, but that wasn't enough for me either. So we got in touch with a lot of scientists. Many people from around the world were starting to take rain tests. They were taking rain tests from around the world, and what people have been finding, and now we have thousands and thousands of rain tests that have come in, are the exact ingredients that match a number of geoengineering patents that have been designed to spray specifically aluminum, barium, other geoengineering toxins into our sky. And they match the primary ingredients, aluminum, barium, and strontium, from geoengineering programs. In about a 6-year period, these levels have escalated about 50,000 percentage points in certain rain tests. They're there when the trails are present, typically in our rain. They are not there when the trails are not there, or the levels come down considerably. So what we're, again, seeing, what we see in the sky matches geoengineers' plans exactly. What we're finding in our rain, massive amounts of the primary ingredients in geoengineering programs. And what we're seeing in the sky matches, a number of geoengineering patents that are designed to spray these metals out of our sky, but these long trails changing our weather, which we'll get into, A, B, and C, the dots connect. And now, for anybody that doesn't believe in geoengineering, which, again, I didn't at the beginning, this is something that is being addressed by most major universities around our country and around the world. They're rapidly moving towards legislation. So, yes, these programs have been going on. The fact is that they're denying that they've really started on large scale. We have, amounts of evidence which not only suggests but proves that these programs have been ongoing for a number of years and probably, full blown for about 15 plus, I would say.
So what's the agenda here? What's is there any kind of stated purpose, or at least, semi, is there anything, at least at these conferences that they're talking about, that would be their intention in spraying the skies?
Absolutely. Geoengineers are coming in with selling their programs as a way to mitigate global warming. So the theory is, by putting a highly reflective material such as aluminum, which again is very toxic, not only to plant life but also human health, which hopefully we'll get into, that it will create a shield, block sun, and essentially reflect sunlight back into space, and thus cool the planet. And that theory is somewhat correct, but we challenged it in our second film, Why in the World Are They Spraying? After we found a number of studies that indicate, yes, when you put a reflective material in the sky, it will temporarily, regionally, cool that area. And people have noticed, in the warmer climates, you'll have a nice warm day, and then boom, you begin seeing the airplanes back and forth, literally spraying this out of these airplanes. A cloud cover forms. It does cool. However, the studies that we have found, and some of those include studies by NASA, they actually at night trap heat. So it's debatable whether these programs would actually warm the planet, but there are many different agendas. But that's the stated goal by geoengineers. That's how they're selling this, as something that's going to be very harmful, not only to our weather patterns, could disrupt approximately 2 billion people's food supply. We're looking at some very serious consequences. And also a number of other consequences, but they're stating we may have to do this because of the supposed threat of global warming to save the planet. We found a number of other agendas. Many of them are very profitable to certain corporations and individuals.
So in one of the films, I know G. Edward Griffin had said that he thought that if these issues did come to light someday, that of course they would say that they were doing it for the benefit of the public. But I think we're already beginning to see some of the negative aspects of it, and some of the like I said, negative aspects such as aluminum-related diseases are on the rise, respiratory mortality rising. Correct?
Oh, absolutely. Respiratory mortality has gone from number 6 down to number 3 in about a 7-year period. It's extremely high. Aluminum-related illnesses going through the roof. Alzheimer's, autism, if I think I repeated that. But, these are things that are going through the roof. And there are a number of factors that contribute to that. But a number of people, since we released our films, have actually gotten a blood test, and what they're finding is thousands of times the normal amounts of aluminum, barium, other geoengineering materials in their blood. So again, these are literally showing up everywhere. So it's probably, what comes up has to fall down. And we asked David Keith at a geoengineering conference, and he is probably the most effective, I don't use the word good, but the most effective salesperson with these programs, and probably the most world-renowned geoengineer. He stated that they haven't tested for human health implications in terms of putting aluminum up into our sky. In Why in the World Are They Spraying the second film, we found a number of tests that show it's very, very, very toxic. And of course, we're breathing this in. What is sprayed into the sky eventually falls down into the air that we breathe. So every breath that we're taking, we're inhaling these, even if you don't see the trails in the sky.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's kind of frightening. I mean, you would think, of course, that the test that they should probably first do would be the effects that it would have on the human population. And we also know that farmers all over the world, correct, are seeing effects on their crop that are affecting it negatively, correct?
Yeah, there's no question about it. And in the first film, what we had noticed was when we started talking to scientists, we went up to Northern California, and they started noticing a lot of trees were dying, certain things were not growing, and they wondered why. So initially, and this is what led us to our tests, they started testing the pH of the soil. pH of the soil was changing. It was changing from, 100 times the normal amount into an alkaline soil. The soil in that region is typically very, very acidic, but it was changing to alkaline, and that was part of the reason for the death. So they wondered what was causing it, started testing the rain, and again, they found literally massive amounts of the aluminum, barium, other geoengineering particles in the rain, and again, thousands of times the normal levels. Boom. That was pretty much our red flag to sourcing this to what we saw being emitted in the sky on a daily basis. Another thing, in the wintertime and during the colder months, I live on an organic farm in Maui, and we film quite a bit in Maui. We've seen on the particular farm that I live on up to a 50% decline in our ability to get the yields, and this is over a 10-year period. Supposed to a number of other farmers, they've seen similar, even up to 70% crop losses.
Wow.
Due to a number of things, due to overgrowth of mold, but they hadn't really sourced it. But we interviewed both Rosalind Peterson, also Barb Kramer of Farm Wars in the second film, and she had found this issue called abiotic stress, which, according to the USDA, will create a 30% crop loss in the next 20 years. I might be a little off on the numbers, but a significant amount of crop loss. What is abiotic stress? It's literally everything that geoengineering creates. It's droughts in certain areas, too much moisture, which creates fungal overgrowth. It's heavy metal contamination in our soils, and again, this is literally everything that geoengineering creates. So, remarkably, there's a solution to this problem of abiotic stress. That solution is this: Monsanto has a genetically modified seed that will grow very effectively in this new environment. It's a GMO, abiotic stress-resistant seed. So through the death and destruction, and probably the more these programs continue, our complete loss in our ability to grow natural foods, Monsanto comes in with their seeds. It's literally a corporatization of our natural systems. There are even seeds now are genetically modified forests. We're seeing forests die off around the world at a very rapid rate, but there is again a corporate solution. So this is it's what a lot of prophecies, religious and spiritual prophecies state. They state this the system coming up to power and literally trying to control the earth, and this is what it is. And again, it's the death and destruction of nature, and in turn, the development and usurping of the authority of nature, authority of God, into the hands of the corporations, where man can gain literally godlike power through these the leveraging of these programs.
Mm-hmm. And I think that it's obviously not a huge stretch of the imagination to think that what they're doing and the chemicals that they're spraying up there are affecting basically everything on the planet, right? I mean, is there something that this won't be affecting?
There's nothing that's not affected, and that's the unfortunate thing. I mean, all of our plant life is being compromised, and we see it, in the rainforest in Maui, we've had, about a 40% loss of the rainforest, of the trees. But geoengineers are open about the fact that this could happen and will happen. They're also very open about the fact that geoengineering shreds our ozone. So every time they're up there spraying, anytime you put a particle into the sky, it will affect our ozone layer. We have seen a tremendous loss of our ozone in the past 15 years, and it continues to grow. Many people are noticing that they burn much easier when they're out in the sun. This is a direct loss of our protective layer that's being shredded by these programs on a daily basis, and it's very concerning. We're seeing, I believe this is due to the ozone loss, a lot of leaves on trees and a lot of plant life that is singed and has a burnt color, typically in the summer months, and we believe it's due to that as well.
So we've got the stated purpose of combating global warming. Is there any other motives? I know that we've got things like weather derivatives and it's something around, it says it in one of the films that around 80% of the economy is sort of weather sensitive. Is that correct?
It is. And one thing that's important to note, and what was very concerning, after the first film, we started looking for motives. Why are they doing this? What's going on? We know it's very destructive. We found out it's extremely, extremely profitable. And one thing geoengineers were speaking about was the fact that their programs will disrupt weather patterns. Anytime you put a particulate into the sky, it's going to diminish both wind and rainfall and thus create droughts in certain areas and floods in other areas. It's exactly what we're seeing. So geoengineers are talking about literally controlling our weather to offset these balances. And it's pretty basic science. Typically nowadays when you see a big thunderhead rolling in, you will see the planes again going back and forth, literally seeding the top end of those clouds. Usually we see these thunderheads fall apart and the storm does not rain. That's a thing that they have the ability to do, and whether it's barium or another desiccant that you put on a storm, you can literally kill a storm very quickly. Scott Stevens went over the science, has studied this. He's a meteorologist and a former 20-year award-winning weatherman. So he was very effective in gaining our comprehension and understanding on the impact of weather. But spoke with a number of other scientists, and if you look at the main ingredient, which is aluminum oxide, again, very toxic to everything, including us, geoengineers are selling this because it's highly reflective and it's very light. So the idea is that it will stay in our sky much longer. What we found, those principles are true. However, aluminum is a very effective conductor in our sky. So by putting a blanket of aluminum into our sky, whether it's through the HARP system or microwave technology, they have the ability to literally warm the sky. And when they warm the sky, what does it do? Boom. It expands, it rises, and literally creates a low-pressure system. So it creates this vacuum that can suck storms into certain areas or, take storms out of other areas, inducing drought, inducing other things. And it's a very concerning thing. And when I first heard of this, I said, why, would anybody want to control the weather? And again, I found out droughts are very, very profitable, especially in the commodities market, because like you said, 80% of all commodities are driven by the ability to predict weather. So, I'm not saying every commodities trader is involved with geoengineering, they have this devious plan, but there are some people who are in the know, because they do have the ability to control our weather. And those that have the playbook and are gambling on it, they can't lose. So, again, if you can, trader Michael Agnew, he was on the second film, and he used the example of, a seed company. And he said, let's say if you have, $10 million worth of crop in the Midwest, and you insure through weather derivatives, you actually hedge your risk, and you insure it for, $50 million. He said, when that crop fails, you literally over double your money. You literally can't lose. And weather derivatives are used for a number of other things. They're used by energy companies, such as gas companies, and what they will do is, again, they'll hedge their risk. So if they need, let's say, X number of days to be below 30 degrees in order to break profit in a certain region, our weather can be unpredictable or predictable now, unfortunately, but they will purchase these derivatives, again, to offset the risk. So if it's a warmer winter, they're not selling enough natural gas, boom, they will still make a profit. So, again, if you have the playbook, you have the ability to effectively predict weather. You simply can't lose. You can make a tremendous amount of money, and that's definitely being done. There are some people literally making billions and billions of dollars annually just on the commodities market.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately we all know that a lot of this world, today is sort of driven by profit. But we did get into a little bit of the weather control aspect. I wanted to ask you if we know that like we said, that they have the ability to control the weather to an extent. There's a lot of talk on the internet about these disasters, like Hurricane Katrina or Sandy. Now, do they have the ability to create something like that?
They have since the 60s, and there are published papers. And I'm trying to think of the scientist's name, but yes, they have had the ability to make hurricanes, other disasters such as this, and that was typically derived from the military, and we covered this in Why in the World Are They Spraying as well. And the idea essentially was, if you can create weather events that give a military an advantage, then you win half of the war is already won. And I can remember back to the first war in Iraq, and I remember somebody saying to me, the U.S. was going in to attack Iraq, and Iraq was experiencing these tremendous sandstorms, and the person said, the good Lord is certainly on the side of the U.S. He created storms, and it was very difficult for the Iraqis to even fight back. Now that we know, weather has been used for a number of years. It was used back as early as the Vietnam War in a project called Project Popeye, where the U.S. government flooded out the Vietnamese main supply line, the Ho Chi Minh Trail, with and I think it was over 12 feet of rain in less than an hour. So they wiped out that main supply line. Very effective weapon in war. Here we are over 40 years later. Technology has come much further. So yes, no question about it. And there are a number of other objectives. But military, corporate, of course, plays a role. And then just your average, everyday commodities broker definitely profits from this.
So there's certainly motives. I think we've gone over a lot of them. One of the things that I did want to get into, we see at the end of the first movie, and it's certainly one of my favorite scenes because I think that it's very telling, that you're met with a lot of I guess, kind of disinterest, to put it lightly, when trying to bring this issue to Congress. Has there been any progress in that respect over the last few years?
There's been a lot of progress in terms of the local level, at the state level, county level, working with legislators around the country. I've had a number of calls from state senators. When you get into the D.C. level, the District of Criminality, as we like to call it, it's a different story. And, we're told that we have a government for the people, by the people, for the people. That's not true. We have a government that, for the most part, I'm not saying every politician is crooked, but there are a number who represent corporate interests, probably the majority. And that's what we're seeing. We are literally seeing this corporate representation. These programs are probably the most profitable programs in terms of being able to predict and leverage investments that we've had since the beginning of time. And yes, absolutely. We had, members of Congress, some of our senators literally running away when we mentioned the term geoengineering, stating it doesn't exist. It's something that we may want to consider to save the planet. But again, at the state level, at the local level, it's very effective. So I would encourage, all the listeners and everybody to literally go out, talk to, after being educated in a non-confrontational way, to your legislators. And we're working on a bill in Hawaii called the Clean Sky Ordinance, which will effectively ban geoengineering on and around the county of Maui and other Hawaiian islands. And this is something that's very urgent because geoengineers now are moving very quickly to establish world government to initiate these programs legally over our skies. And it's much more effective if we can beat them at the pass. It's going to put up a lot of roadblocks and, wake up a lot of the public in terms of the dangers, the damage, that this is doing not only to us, but even our children.
Yeah, and that would be huge. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you were able to pass legislation sort of banning it, then it would have to be admitted that it's taking place on some level, right?
Well, that's correct. And our idea with the bill was to establish something not based on the fact that it's happening, even though it is, there's no question about that, but based on the fact that they're moving forward, they're establishing legislation, they're going to be doing this out in the front. So if they're going to be doing this, you can't do it around Maui, or there's going to be significant fines.
Yeah, and I think Big Island, Hawaii, at least, has recently banned GMOs and, the big biotech companies, right? So hopefully you guys can kind of be on the...
Yeah, we've been on the cutting edge, and it's I shouldn't typically say me. It's the activists there are very aggressive in terms of their health and the food supply. A lot of people grow their own food. There's very much consciousness in terms of eating natural organic foods. So with that being said, yeah, the people of Maui, Kauai, other islands have really stood up, fought for our rights and getting this message out. So it's been just a wonderful opportunity again for activism.
Well, let's talk a little bit about solutions. I know that you mentioned that people should get informed. I highly suggest watching the movies and then going to their local legislatures. Is there anything else? I mean, how can the average person get involved in this issue?
Well, I think first by getting educated. Coalition Against Geoengineering is a very good website, but our films have been award-winning, and they're now known in certain groups around the world. So I think really a very important thing to do is get educated. Watch what in the world are they spraying. Watch why in the world are they spraying. Those are available for free on YouTube. Free is not sustainable, though, so you can go to whyintheworldarethayspraying.com to order a copy. We encourage everybody to make as many copies as they can, those who order the DVD, and get them out into your community, because mainstream media is picking this up. Rolling Stone, a number of publications have, started to address this issue, but they're selling it as something good, something that's going to save us. So again, our films are accurate. They've been very effective at bringing the truth forward, and then start getting the word out, because what we have is we have an educated population, an educated public who knows about this, who can effectively talk about this in a non-conspiratorial way. Then we can have people who are going to start making change, but it comes with education. So that's the first thing. I think the first step.
Good. And I did want to ask. I don't know if is there a Who in the World is Spraying in the making right now?
Right now it's in the research phase, and
okay.
The two films took off so quickly, so we found ourselves working, around the clock nonstop, and promoting just nonstop. So we're catching our breath, doing a little bit of research, but we do plan to move forward with that, and feel that is going to be really the straw that breaks the camel's back in terms of addressing these crimes against nature and humanity. So it's very important.
Absolutely, and I think that'll certainly be a great trilogy to have. I mean, and really the top of the heap as far as documentaries or information on this topic go. So how can people support what you're doing? Maybe support the new film. Do you guys have a Kickstarter, or are people able to donate anywhere?
Right now we've stopped donating but we will very soon. So the most effective thing right now, anything that you any way means of support, do help us to continue to address this on a regular basis. My suggestion would be to encourage everyone to order a DVD of Why in the World Are They Spraying? Get the message out. We will be promoting, and putting out our objectives for Who in the World is Spraying immediately when the time is right. I think that's coming up very quickly. So again, we'd love to have you order our film, make copies, get the message out. That's the important thing to do right now, and watch for Who in the World is Spraying. And we're going to be moving forward with that very quickly.
Yeah, and I think that there's on one of the websites it suggests having even a screening locally for in your town or your city for anybody that wants to come and check it out and maybe promote it locally, which I think is a great idea.
It is, and we've had thousands of people around the world screen the film. Why in the World Are They Spraying is available in a number of different languages, so that's going to be very important, just to get people together and form groups. There are a number of chemtrail groups, geoengineering groups who are forming, getting active into the public, and even politically as well.
Good. So is there any other websites that you wanted to get out there, any social media where people can follow what's going on with your work or the films?
Absolutely. The Coalition Against Geoengineering.org. I've worked that website and put that together with G. Edward Griffin, who's known for a number of films and a number of his works. And I would suggest going there. But also, whyintheworldarethayspraying.com. You can find more information about that, our other products. And then we have a Facebook page for both What in the World Are They Spraying and Why in the World Are They Spraying. I would encourage people to go there. We give daily updates on new news that pops up, so that's a great way to stay plugged into the issue, become informed, and start taking action.
Good. And obviously those links will be available anywhere this is available, whether it's on YouTube or our site, so people will be able to have access to that. So just at the end here, I just wanted to kind of open it up for you for any final thoughts or anything that you really wanted to get out there for everybody.
Well, again, I just want to encourage people, it can be what we talk about can be a little concerning, very frightening for some people, and it's not a very pleasant thing. So typically most people address this in a negative light. And what I think is most important is this, we have an issue, and it's a very serious issue. It affects each and every one of us, but more importantly, we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to take programs that have been largely unknown for a number of years, address them, and finally get them stopped. So if we address this effectively, if we get out into our communities, we will stop these programs. And stopping them will give us the life, freedom, the health, the planet and the future that we want to live in. So I want to encourage people to look at this in a positive light, have fun in your activism, and just get the message out in a non-frightening way. And that's probably the most important. And our films have been known to do that. So it's very important.
Absolutely. Again, I highly recommend both of the films for anybody that hasn't seen them. And just wanted to say thank you for your work, your continued work on this issue and the films, and for joining us today, Michael. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all of your work, for addressing this topic particularly, and getting the message out. Keep up the great work, and we'll be praying for you, and we hope that you're praying for us.
Absolutely. Well, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, folks, there you have it. Again, I apologize for the poor sound quality, but I do think that the message got across, and I do think that it is an important message. Michael's passion, not only for the issues that we talked about, but I think for humanity in general, definitely showed in this conversation and the few conversations that we had off air. So I really think that he's a truly stand-up guy and somebody that we should all look up to and perhaps aspire to in his activism. So I hope that you all enjoyed, and we'll see you next time on the Vibin Higher Podcast.